Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury or pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. Hello and welcome to Wednesday Bible Study. Doing it a little bit differently this Wednesday. I'm recording it in the sanctuary from the pulpit so I can get a little different camera angle than I had on Sunday when I recorded it from the altar. So just still getting our feet wet with this system, so have patience and we will ultimately get it all figured out. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate, as always, your attendance and participation in these Bible studies. How you doing? I'm getting tired. I'm getting weary, as I'm sure are most of us, just weary of all this stuff. All the election stuff, and that's kind of past, I guess, maybe sort of, but not quite. And then the pandemic continues to just hang heavy in the air, and we try to make decisions and have discussions about how do we move ahead and where do we go, and yet we just seem to be boxed in by the reality of it all. But such is life. And I must candidly admit, I'm also getting a bit weary of the lectionary texts. The few weeks before Advent, and Advent is the beginning of December, the weeks before Advent are filled with all of this second coming, apocalyptic, end time stuff. It was true last week, it's true this week, it'll be true next week, and I must candidly confess that I'm growing a bit weary of that as well. We're going to take a look at the epistle lesson for this Sunday, which is from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, which, by the way, was written by the Apostle Paul, and which, by the way, scholars pretty unanimously declare or claim that 1 Thessalonians was the first letter that Paul wrote. And as you know, Paul's letters were the first writings in the New Testament. So, 1 Thessalonians is really chronologically the first writing in the New Testament. And just as an aside, 2 Thessalonians was probably written by someone else. But at any rate, in it, Paul writes, "For you yourselves know very well that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. When they say there is peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them." Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what good necessarily for me and for all of us it does to know that, at some point in the future, God is going to come again and wreak havoc with those people upon whom God chooses to wreak havoc. I don't know how helpful that is. I know that may sound a bit unorthodox, but I just don't know how helpful it is. And I get weary of these texts beating me over the head with it. I get weary of TV preachers who make a living out of doing nothing but prophesying when the end times will come and what it will look like. And I think the ministry of Jesus is all about, as I have said innumerable times, is all about the here and now. So I'm pulling one grain of what I think is something that I can chew on out of this text from 1 Thessalonians. When Paul says, you, however, you Christians, will not be surprised, because you, followers of Jesus, are children of light. And in Paul's context here, he talks about the children of light and the children of the day that allow us to stay awake and be sober while all those around us are falling asleep and getting drunk. Metaphorically, of course. Not always, but primarily. I think it's more than that. It's got to be more than that. It has to be more. It has to be, our relationship with God in Jesus Christ has to be more than just being a good person. And if you're a good person, God will love you. And if you're a bad person, God's going to blast you. There's got to be more to it than that. And I think this conversation about us being children of the light speaks in part to a point of that. So, what is the difference between being a person of the light and a person of the day, and a person of the dark and a person of the night? What perception or what sense is more acute in light and day rather than dark and night? Our vision, we can see better, can't we? So I think in this grain of truth from 1 Thessalonians, Paul is speaking to us about being children of the light, children who see things as they really are, who see people, including ourselves, most especially ourselves, who see people as they really are. Too often, folks live in a world of imagination. Now, imagination can be a good thing. It can be a good thing. But too often it ends up being an unproductive thing when we see ourselves as someone we are not, usually from a framework of not being realistic and not being hopeful and positive enough. And we also see the world through rose-colored glasses. We don't see it as it really is. And I guess for those same reasons. And of course, there's obvious dangers in having that flawed vision of ourselves and of the world. So as children of the light, I suggest to us that as we plow through these lectionary texts building up to the first Sunday in Lent, first Sunday in Advent, that we keep in mind that we are children of the light, and keep in mind that as children of the light, we are called to see things, to see people, including ourselves, as what and who they really are. And then, with that vision, with that clarity of vision, from the reference point of being a beloved child of God in Jesus Christ, then we make positive changes to change that future. Not worrying about the future, but positively taking steps today to change what tomorrow will look like. So, it may sound like I'm whining when I say that I'm weary. I know that you are too. And many of you, as I find out from conversations, are dealing with a lot more than I am dealing with. But we're all getting tired. We're all getting tired of this stuff that surrounds us. And I guess we as Christians, as followers of Christ, need to, as I admonish us, to keep the faith, remain hopeful, and be children of the light. And as children of the light, seeing those possibilities, and seeing those promises, and seeing that hope that exists for us and for the world. Amen. Thank you again for stopping by. Things coming up this Sunday, the 15th, virtual worship service. However, Sunday school at 9:45 will be in person. And then Wednesday night is confirmation at 6:30 in person. And I think that's it. I had made some notes. Did I forget anything? That's it. That's it. So, as we go out into the remainder of this week, despite the weariness that may at times seem to overwhelm us, I ask us to continue to use our heads. God gave us a brain for a reason to use it, not just to succumb and acquiesce to all the talking heads who tell us what we should do and how we should think. Use our heads. Wash your hands. Wear a mask where appropriate. And by all means, keep the faith. Amen, and God bless you all. And the reason I sang coming in is because I had to turn the machine on, and now I got to go turn it off. So maybe I'll sing another verse as I go. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, only light. And where there's sadness, ever joy.